So I don't know which one was worse this morning. Whether the Romans verse that you got stuck with, like Paul tends to write in circles, and every time I don't have to read Paul out loud, I'm thankful. So thank you very much for reading Paul, or the fiery furnace stuff that I got to read. That was fun too. So anyway, we hear kind of frightening stories from Jesus this morning. And we hear it about the weeds and the wheat. And this teaching, it sort of has like fantastic, almost apocalyptic sort of imagery. We get these fantastic and crazy details, like there's this evil enemy lurking around who has nothing better to do with his time than like sow weeds in some, it's like a farm vendetta or something. And then we've got angels that come through, and then we've got fiery furnaces and weeping and gnashing of teeth. And at first, this parable seems pretty straightforward, all right? Because it appears that, and Jesus kind of explains it as straightforward in some ways. He says, there are good people who will go to heaven someday, and evil people who will go to hell. And, we've got the wheat, and that equals good people. And then we've got the weeds, and that equals bad people. And we've got the farmer planting good seed, and that's Jesus. And we've got the enemy planting the evil seed, and that's the devil. Right? End of story. End of sermon, right? No, well, not exactly. Because the more I've been reading and studying this story, and the more that I read and study the Bible in general, how often does Jesus give us an easy, straightforward story? Just about never, if you think about it. I mean, usually his stuff is along the lines of love your enemies. Pray for those people who persecute you and hurt you. Turn the other cheek if you get hit on one. Don't store up treasures for yourself on earth. Those are the normal things we get from Jesus. So Jesus' teachings are usually challenging, they're kind of hard, and usually they're counter-instinctual, all right? They're kind of against the grain of what we normally would do. So I'm wondering, what is Jesus trying to tell his disciples, his church, you and me, all this morning? And I wonder if we could start by looking at this idea of the enemy. I think that's interesting. A lot of people always want to, I don't know, I'm not quite sure what the fascination is or what the worry is. I hear a lot of people talk about the devil, or, do you believe in the devil, or how do you think the devil works and all that. And so, what's going on here? Who is the enemy in this story that Jesus tells? And you're allowed to cheat. You can look in your Bibles there. You're totally allowed to cheat. Who does Jesus say it is? Names of it in verse, let's see here, in verse 39. Starts with D, ends with L. All right, there we go. You got it. Good work. The devil, the one who put the weeds in the midst of the farmer's good crop. All right? And the devil could very well be the enemy in this story. All right? So, any other possibilities for who the enemy could be in this story? What about the weeds? These weeds, they go down, and basically it's darnel. It's called cheat grass or cheatweed. And what it'll do is that its roots actually wrap around the good plant's roots to take nutrients and water from the good plants. All right. So in some ways, the weeds could be the enemy, right? And finally, I wonder if the farmer's servants could be considered the enemy. All right? Because if you look at the story, they want to go out and pull and destroy and burn up those evil weeds. But in the process, they're going to stomp down the good wheat, the crop. All right? So could the farmer's servants themselves be the enemy as well? So again, we've got three options. We've got the devil, we got the weeds, we got the farmer's servant. So again, maybe we should start by looking at who the enemy is in the story. And I got to wondering, what if the enemy is anyone or anything with the opposite intention of the farmer? All right? And since that Jesus tells us, he says, I'm the good farmer, does that mean that the enemy is anyone who has the opposite intention of Jesus? All right? The person who is the enemy is the opposite of what Jesus wants. And what is the opposite of Jesus? What are some things that you would say are opposite to what Jesus wants? Hatred. Yeah, very good. Yeah, and he tends to be against hatred. Anything else that Jesus is against? Yeah. Not believing God. Yeah, unbelief. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Good job. Anything else that Jesus seems against? Sin. Yeah, I mean, anything that tears us away from each other and God. We could go on and on and on. We could do anger, hatred, jealousy, scarcity, unbelief, sin, racism. I wonder if you go on down to the left, death. Jesus is against death. Jesus is against things that kill us, that destroy us. Jesus is pure life. As you read through the Bible, all right, he is constantly healing people. He's feeding people. He's bringing people food. He's even raising people from the dead. Jesus is abundance. Jesus is life. The enemy could be anyone or anything that stands in opposition to God's desire that all might have life and all might have it abundantly. So it's no secret that our communities, our towns, our country are changing. All right? We're changing in how we see, how we understand, and how we practice religion. All right? Who here is church the same for when they were little and when they are the current age? There's a few of us that it might be the same for. But for the most part, has things changed? Has the building changed? Has the pastor changed? Change is a pretty constant thing. So anyway, one of the other things that we've noticed, has church in general gotten big? And I'm talking broad here. Have we gotten bigger or smaller? We've gotten smaller. Yeah. Weekly worship in the United States, all right? In 1970, about 35% of the people went to worship. Now it's about 25%. 1 in 4 Americans between the ages of 18 and 29 say they have no faith, no religion. It's not that they don't, just not go. They don't believe in anything. And the most active and committed members of church are 60 years and older. And I'm not going to have anybody raise their hand all right? So I'll give you an out on that one. So anybody want to take a guess? And just, you can think this one in your head. I'm gonna let you see if you're right here. The top reason that people say why they are not interested in organized religion in the Christian church. The top reason. That's very, very good guess. Very, very good guess. I would say that lots of people say that's why. I would go with that because I saw a shirt one time that I love and I want. And if we ever get shirts made for St. Peter's, I wanted to say it is our church is not full of hypocrites. And on the back it would say there's always room for one more. All right, that all of us have that. But that is a constant cry is that the church is our hypocrites. Yeah, we are. Yeah, we know what we're supposed to do, but we don't do it. So, and the overwhelming, and I'm sure that was on the list, but the overwhelming top choice was church is too judgmental. Overwhelming. And I'm not saying that St. Peter's is judgmental or legalistic, but I do wonder if in general the church has an image problem. All right? I wonder if we have become more known for what we are against than what we are for. When the farmer's servants see the weeds in with the wheat, what do they want to do? They want to judge. They want to pick out which ones are the bad ones and which ones are the good ones and destroy the bad, and in the process, destroy the good. How many of us have ever caught ourselves thinking like the farmer's servants? I know I have. If only I were in charge, I would do it right. If I could just get rid of a few bad apples, then that would be all right. What if this parable shines a light on our love, on our desire, on our nature of wanting to be like God, to decide who gets in and who gets out? When the servants want to go in and rip out the weeds, the farmer stops them. In their desire to get rid of the weeds, the servants would damage the wheat. Could it be that Christians, you and I, have done some damage to people by trying too hard to judge what is evil and judge what is good? Are we ever tempted to make church about purity and about morality? Again, a museum for the saints rather than a hospital for the sinners. The good news this morning for all of us is that we can stop. We can stop protecting God. God does not need us to protect it. All right? This morning we hear that God has a plan. And at no point is God worried that the field is going to be overrun by the weeds. God has a plan and is firmly in control. We can stop assuming the role of Jesus and focus on being followers. Focus on being disciples rather than judges. Does this mean that we get to kick back and do nothing? Absolutely not. The servants continue to have a job. All right? The servants, that they got to care for the whole field. The wheat and the weeds. They water and feed both. And our job, too, is to care for the whole field. Since the very beginning in Genesis, God has called us to take care of plants, take care of trees, water, animals, and other people. We were never called to be judges of who is good and who is evil. What would the Christian church look like if we were no longer perceived by the general culture of being a watchdog for morality or an advocate for a certain political agenda, and instead we were seen only as workers for life and workers for abundance? This is one of the reasons that I'm proud to be a Christian who also happens to be a Lutheran. Lutherans have long believed that Christianity is more than just getting people to heaven. It's also about promoting and bringing abundant life to people here and now. All right, if you look around the world, there are Lutheran hospitals. All right, because we believe that people need to have life through healing. The Lutheran Church is also, how many of you have known of a Lutheran school or a Lutheran college? We started massive numbers of schools and universities because we believe that education brings life and opportunity. All right? The Lutheran Church also runs disaster relief. All right? All those places that you see when that earthquake happened in Haiti, typhoon in Japan, all those things, the Lutheran Church was there because God cares for and loves all people. It doesn't matter if they're Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, Jewish, He loves all of us. If people are suffering from flood, fire, or famine, Lutherans are there, giving food, shelter, and other emergency supplies. So I want to encourage us just to try something different. I want to encourage us to live out our Christian faith in ways that are life-giving at our schools, at our jobs, and in our communities. And I want us to think through, and maybe you're already there, but sometimes I tend to define myself for what I'm not. I want to say I'm not like that other church down the street. I'm not like those types of Christians. But instead, what if we started defining ourselves by what we are for? When someone asks you about your church, tell them what they are doing that is giving life. What does St. Peter's do that gives life? What is life-giving to you about worship? Please don't describe us as what we are not. I don't think that's helpful. How are we dedicated to bringing life to all who live around us? I can give you maybe a few examples, some cliff notes to start with. St. Peter's Lutheran is for youth. This year, your generosity helped to provide back-to-school clothes for kids who are in need in Connellsville. All right, local, just up the street. St. Peter's Lutheran is for feeding people. We believe that all people should have enough food. You helped to provide emergency assistance to homeless folks in Pittsburgh this year. St. Peter's Lutheran is for healing. Yesterday, 9 of us drove up to Glade Run, and it's a youth program just north of Pittsburgh, to have a picnic with kids we've never met before and we'll probably never see again. Through sharing a meal, playing some games, doing crafts with these young men, you live into that idea that all people are important to God and all deserve God's love and compassion. What else could you tell people that St. Peter's is for? And I want to end this by saying, I was talking about this one time, and somebody said, "You don't believe in judgment?" Oh, I believe in judgment. Believe me, I'm there. So on the way out, you can ask me about that. And I believe that we all will be judged for what we've done and what we've left undone. But that judgment is God's job. And God claims that alone, not ours. And I suspect, at that moment of judgment, we're going to be surprised to see some wheat there that we had mistaken for a wheat. And maybe somebody might be looking at you and thinking, I mistook that person for a wheat. So, this is good news, that God loves us so much. Thanks be to God. Amen.